becoming inspired or being inspired is not enough. It's an important spark. It's one even can say it's a necessary spark, which, when it happens in the process of your training or living life, as you pursue your goals, it reignites you. It gives you more the feeling of a fresh start, more energized. But it's simply a spark. A spark is nothing if you don't have next to it material that will turn it into flame. You need to have the fuel in addition to the spark. What I notice, especially in the arena of mental and spiritual development, many people have become addicts of that moment of inspiration, getting those goosebumps. Going to church or to the temple or to wherever where people gather, and there's usually music involved, some form of music. Either it's chanting, very basic, but in some traditions or religions, denominations, you have singing of all sorts, musical instruments, drums, guitars, this, that. You're almost like in a concert. Especially somebody gets up at the lectern and starts talking and using different things, different ways of saying, a lot of acting. I remember I used to attend a Protestant school as a child in my primary years. And I would be so moved, many times I was moved to tears because of the stories that they would tell, the preacher, or, Years later, I actually found the sources of these, different stories that they were putting in, adding in, and somehow correlating it with something, a scene from the Bible, and a lot of emotionality, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. This is not simply with, let's say, I mentioned Protestantism, but it's not just that, of course. You see it everywhere, including in Buddhism. You have teachers of both Theravada or Mahayana or Vajrayana, actually, also, that play with people's feelings. Not just in person in Dhamma talks, but also in their books. In their books. There's a lot of dumbing down the Dhamma to make it palatable, thanks to the medium of wanting to cater to, rather, people's appetite of becoming, quote-unquote, inspired. So I remember, who was it? Thich Nhat Hanh and others, including Dalai Lama, that would make a lot of similarities, used to draw similarities between Christ, the teachings of Christ or Jesus, and the Buddha. To appeal to audiences, larger audiences. And Thich Nhat Hanh was talking to, he established himself in France. primarily, or a Catholic country, one would say, in an area of France which did not have necessarily much knowledge of Buddhism, especially Mahayana type of Buddhism, Vietnamese Zen, etc. So you see this in the Dalai Lama's, appearances. Everybody's trying to inspire the audience. There's Theravada tradition, obviously. You have, this Ajahn, that Ajahn over there, telling jokes, talking about contemporary issues in a contemporary way, dumbing down the Dhamma. In fact, selling yourself. Okay, you sell yourself, fine, but you don't have to sell the Dhamma short. At least have the integrity to stand aside and say, well, these are my values, which apparently I'm bankrupt in that department, but at least I'm not going to reach into the Dhamma and try to just use it, the teachings of Lord Buddha that is, as a means to inspire people so that you can basically get supporters and people to like you. That's the bottom line. When I say this to people, they're shocked. But after they spend some time thinking about it and going back and looking at those examples I'm sharing, they see what I'm talking about. And sadly, it is true. So that's one thing that could be said about being inspired. But is inspiration a bad thing? Absolutely not. Of course, one needs to be inspired. Those who came to listen to Lord Buddha, why did they come? Why were they like repeat audience members, if you will? They kept on actually following him in many cases across India or wherever Lord Buddha went. They would go, and all those who could afford, they would walk, they would go there, they would jump on their chariots in the case of the wealthy, the kings and the merchants, to follow, sit down and just to listen to him day after day, night after night. Now, Lord Buddha also had a few things to say about individuals who were simply looking for that sensation of being moved, inspired. He would jolt them into reality and saying, what are you doing? Because many people were also looking at him as his persona, his look, he had the 32 marks of a superior being. And many people were just mesmerized by that. And Lord Buddha would just shatter that image and say, this is just nothing. This is a bag of excrement, basically. It's going to end up on the cremation pyre. What are you doing worshiping this? Or seeking to be inspired? Which in itself is a drive that human beings seem to have. And when you narrow it down, you come back to that one single thing. A certain feeling that is generated in you. Now we take that feeling, just like a memory, we take a memory, and then we augment it, we embellish it, we change it, we add magnifying glasses all around it so that it appears bigger than it is. We write books on it. We talk to people about it. All, ultimately, as far as the Dhamma is concerned, is basically characterized as missing the point. So inspiration is never enough. It's a spark. It's a wonderful spark. It's necessary to reignite in you the drive to carry on with new gusto, with new energy, with new drive. To look at where you're at, how much energy you're applying or not, and make the necessary changes and move on. But what we do is we try to regurgitate that, experience of having goose flesh or being moved to tears. What do you do after that? That's what I'm interested in. I would notice this sometimes after a talk. I would see people lining up and wanting to ask questions. So I would try to answer them, but sometimes I'm extremely exhausted, so I have to excuse myself because I need to rest myself, my throat, go. And then I would just look from the corner of my eye, and I would see they're talking with each other. It's like, yeah. And you see they are trying to still ricochet that impact that they had, to kind of bounce off of each other, almost trying to see if there's an echoing of what they experienced. And perhaps, just maybe, they can embellish that feeling. They can fan it a little bit more so that they could feel a little bit more inspired. If you noticed, I didn't say anything about the practice yet. Why is this path so special then? What's so different between that and any other path out there? Or, not even a path, going to a musical concert. Or some type of an entertaining event. Or even a boxing match. How about that? When people are trying to draw blood and kill each other. Everybody's emotional. They're inspired. That's another aspect of becoming inspired, moved. Where the person is being pulled out, drawn out from their mundane reality into something that is supramundane, in their mind at least. But that's where many people stop. They want to be moved. In essence, agitated. To agitate the heart. That's what they want, because it gives you a certain emotional buzz. Psychological buzz. And that's where it just ends. This is something that was really pronounced in, for me, I saw it. It was very loud and clear when I was traveling through Asia. Within Buddhist circles, Buddhist communities, where you have groups here, groups there, and sometimes they are, interrelated in the sense you will find members of this group at this center or this temple having joined another group over there where they are mutually associated, and they would invite teachers from, let's say, other parts of the world, especially that area, whether it's Australia, whether it's from Thailand, whether it's from, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, whatever, or the US. And then you would see the same people in different areas having different teachers. I would look and I would hear individuals coming to me and saying, Bhante, I'm going to, after I've done this 10-day retreat, next week I have to go and do another retreat with this other, Ajahn, with this other teacher. And I would look and I was like, why? People don't know what to do with a why. Apparently. And this whole path is based on why. This whole path has started because Lord Buddha asked, why is there suffering? So if this person is benefiting from one retreat, why is there a need to go and jump to another wagon, another train, another path, another teacher, even if it's from the same tradition? I don't care. If they've gone to another retreat last week, why do they need to come and attend my retreat here? Really? First, how are you finding the time? In fact, when are you finding the time to practice? So what you essentially have are individuals who just keep collecting teachers. I remember my dad had a very old book of stamps that he had been, I didn't know this, but he apparently used to collect lots and lots of stamps. So here you have, in these so-called students of the Dhamma, stamp collectors. Instead of the stamp, however, you have teacher collectors. Or at least, I have been in discussions, They would say, I've attended this Ajahns, this Bhantes, this Bhikkhus, this Sayadaw's retreat. He is my teacher. It happens so many times. My teacher, my teacher, my teacher, my teacher. Oh, my other teacher, my other teacher, my other teacher. Wow. It's an addiction. It's an addiction. To me, I don't see much of a difference between that person and somebody who collects cars. Fancy cars. It's quite ridiculous. Now, people don't like to think like that because what they've turned into is trying to improve their chances. maybe this Bhante, this Ajahn over there, or this Bhikkhu, is going to say something and I'm going to catch that phrase, that word, and it's just going to hit the spot and I'm going to attain something. So I just have to go and put myself out there. Again, I recall my dad. We weren't wealthy financially, but every week my dad would buy at least one lottery ticket. At least, I said, one. Sometimes he would buy more than one, especially if he did well, that week. So he had some cash extra, so he would go and buy maybe 10. So one day I asked him, but Dad, why? I mean, if you're lucky, you're lucky. So you're going to hit the jackpot or whatever it is, the lottery, with that one. He says, no. The more I have, the better chances I have of hitting it. So these idiots who collect teachers instead of stamps are no different than, I call them idiot, by the way, because they're wasting an opportunity. They're wasting a huge opportunity. Become inspired. Wonderful. But do something with it. Go to your room. Go back to your life. Live your life, but with the Dhamma. Live your life with Sila. Most of these individuals I met actually have quite a questionable array of Sila, or absence of. And that's another thing which many people do. They camouflage that. They cover it up with dana, generosity, but especially by attending this retreat, that retreat, or involving themselves in dayaka activities or supporter activities. Oh, we're going to do the flower arrangements for this event coming up. There's the Vesak coming. Oh, we have to do this, or there's that event, or the monks are going to be chanting this, so we're going to do this, so we're going to set the tables. Who cares? Your life depends on what you do now. most people forget that the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, which is the longest sutta in the Nikayas, is full of jolting instructions that electrify a person. Talk about inspiration, right? You have all the inspiration ready for you there. There was one bhikkhu who had been struggling, but he was also very lax in his efforts for quite some time. Now, when he finds out that Lord Buddha is dying, he rushes to his kuti. He rushes to, isolate himself so that he could practice. Now, the rest of his companions in the Holy Life, the other bhikkhus, the other monks, go to Lord Buddha to bow down, to do the whole puja thing, to do the whole oh yes, Bhante, you're dying, what are we going to do type of a thing. Or at least look at each other and say, oh, our teacher is dying. We don't know how much time we have with him. Doing the typical putujjana thing, the dense human being, the thick-skulled, undisciplined, unlearned individuals, crass persons. You could be having, several PhDs. You're still crass if you don't respect the Dhamma, if you don't learn the Dhamma, if you don't practice the Dhamma. Still putujjana. So these monks / putujjanas are sitting there in their mind. Actually, as they walked away from their buddy over there, they looked at each other and was like, could you believe this guy? Our teacher is dying and he's over there meditating. I mean, what's wrong with him? He should be there with us crying. He should be with us, hands in Anjali, bowing down to Lord Buddha and saying, oh, Bhante, Bhante, Bhante. What an ingrate. What an insensitive bhikkhu. So they get to Lord Buddha. Afterwards, it's boiling. Finally, they spill the beans and they say, Bhante, could you believe our friend? He's so disrespectful towards you that he chooses to be away instead of coming here and paying his respect to you. Now, especially now, you're dying. Lord Buddha sees with his mind exactly what's going on. But to teach them a lesson, hopefully, sends one of them to go and get the other bhikkhu. He says, the teacher is calling you. And he rushes back with that, that monk rushes because the teacher called him. So he comes moved, inspired, already feeling the sense of loss, impending loss, because he knows he hasn't attained arahantship yet. So it feels like he's pulling entire locomotives behind him with every step that he's taking towards Lord Buddha, because he knows that he's not done it yet. But he has to, because his teacher is calling him. So he goes and he bows down, and Lord Buddha asks him with a smile as he's lying down on his right side. He says, Bhikkhu, is this true? Lord Buddha was in tremendous, unimaginable back pain. Plus he was, having severe GI problems as well. And his weakness was intense. So it took incredible energy from him to stay alive, because he was still hoping to teach somebody. And here was a monk who was going to be a lesson for his buddies over there. We're feeling like, see, now we're teaching you a lesson of respect, how to respect your teacher. And Lord Buddha asks him, and then the bhikkhu says, Bhante, I thought I'm a bhikkhu. I became a bhikkhu out of my own free will and my own free choice. I've been withstanding, I've been going through so many hardships, but at the same time I know that I haven't striven enough. Why? Because I have not yet attained. So, when I found out that my teacher, our teacher, is dying, I said to myself, what is it? What is the best way that I could show respect towards my teacher? And I said, by providing him, by giving him the information, by giving him the knowledge that one of his bhikkhus has attained. Became an arahant who completed the holy path, the goal of the holy path. That was my thinking, Bhante. I did not mean any disrespect. Lord Buddha smiles and he turns to them and says, did you hear that? And he says, if you want to respect me, you do exactly what he has done, what he is doing. And he says, go. That bhikkhu attains arahantship very short after. Within that same night, he becomes an arahant. But he wasn't the only arahant that, that we ended up having before Lord Buddha closed his eyes for the last time. So, respect, inspiration are simply passing states. They need to be serving a purpose. So you do not get inspired simply because you need to get more inspired. That's going to make you and keep you an addict. I have had students who are like that. They just want to be moved. Well, previously they used to get moved in different ways. Now they want to be moved in different ways. Oh, by giving it that extra nuance of sublime, of lofty goals, lofty ideals, arahantship, nibbana. They don't even know what that means, many people. No more movement. That's another definition for nibbana. What are you talking about, getting inspired and being moved? What's wrong with you? This is not the path for idiots, nor the path of idiots. And despite however many idiots we have, who calling themselves Buddhists today, Buddhist practitioners in fact, or Buddhist teachers in fact, must realize the work necessary that they have to put, instead of sitting there and just being on the receiving end of something sublime happening to you, which is a carryover from other religions, other traditions, other things. What do people do when they go to a movie theater or watch a movie? You get into a passive state of receptivity. I mean, come on, you just turned off the lights. Or they turned off the lights and you're sitting there among the crowd and watching this thing, which doesn't exist, by the way. So everybody's conspiring to make this white blank screen suddenly become a doorway to a story, a happening, an event, a life, a world of possibilities, which, like a black hole, will suck you in, and suddenly you're lost your identity, because now you're lost in this story that they are selling you. The Dhamma isn't selling you anything. The Dhamma is trying to pull you out of your misery, out of your cesspool of ignorance, not to drag you into another one. So seeking to be inspired again and again by attending this talk and then this retreat and that retreat, while you do nothing to gain from any of those retreats because your heart is not in it. Imagine that retreat you're going to is the very, very, very last one. You're never going to have another one. That's it. In fact, that one particular day of the retreat, whether it's a 3-day, 5-day, whatever, how many days, that day is the only day you're going to get. And you're going to die at the end of that. How much effort would you put in? That's the work, that's the level of intensity that is necessary for this path to deliver. There's nothing wrong with the path. It is how much we're putting in. So if you are lukewarm, if you are stale in your efforts, and you're always seeking to be ignited with life by something that's moving, something that, oh, I wonder what my Bhante is going to say, what my Ajahn is going to say that's going to make us all laugh or become inspired or be moved to tears. You're in the wrong place. You're doing something else. This is not Dhamma. Because as you're breaking free from your older version of who you were, how you thought, how you behaved, every moment becomes inspiring. That's what we call vipassana. You don't need external sources of inspiration to come at you, nor for you to go after them. You want to be inspired? Fine, go read the suttas. But don't keep reading the suttas. Get an inspiring line, a phrase, a verse, and just go and do the work. If you're a businessman, if you're an employee, if you're involved with responsibilities as a layperson, fine, go live that life, but bring that verse with you and try to find them in that busy life of yours. Your life is the most juiciest retreat you're ever going to find. If you're approaching that verse, that sutta, properly. Otherwise, you're just like a monkey jumping from one branch to the next. Not just your thoughts. You are the monkey jumping from one branch to the next. So stop with this addiction of being moved and inspired and all this nonsense. Who cares if you're going to die in the next 5 minutes? Where's that inspiration going to get you? So make yourself available to the practice. Develop an appreciation for your life. Yes, the spark of inspiration is necessary to just do that. The spark is going to start the flame of desire. The desire in this case is Dhamma Chanda, the desire for Dhamma to reveal itself. Dhamma patu bhavo, to reveal itself for you in your life, in your own circumstances, in your own dictionary, in your own words, in your own vocabulary. Suddenly, though, something else needs to happen. You need to relinquish your concepts of the Dhamma, because as you're hobnobbing, as you're jumping like a monkey from one retreat, one teacher to the next, one Dhamma talk to the next, whether it's in person or online, this group, that group, that group, you're creating tremendous agitation, and you're not giving enough time, effort for the teaching, any of the teachings that any of those teachers might be giving you, to really send down their roots and develop into something fruitful in you. That's why you're simply collecting. And what are you collecting? Whatever you're collecting, you're not even tasting. That's the sad part. Because it takes a lot for you to take time out, to spend money, to travel here, there, whatever. And many of those retreats you have to pay for, at least for accommodation. But just this is all nonsense, ultimately. Make your life count. Make your interest in the Dhamma count. But you have to be honest and genuine in what is it that you want, really. This is what's going to allow you to move from Putujjana land to go and become a noble disciple. in training.